Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the budget committee meeting to order.
I didn't pass out the minutes, I'm sorry.
And as soon as the minutes get passed out, we'll consider them.
I've been sitting here beating my gums, I'm sorry. Pass that down to the sick one down there. Now you go, I'm sorry. I missed you up.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion,
Second.
a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, finance report.
Finance report's in your packet. Through December, we've received 55% of our budgeted property tax revenue. Same time last year, we were at 53.47%, so collections are coming in well. Everything appears to be in line, so I'm pleased with where we are.
Any questions?
I wanted to ask, how much do we have in the, I can't remember the name of it now, they said mine's first thing to go, the building, wait a minute. Capital projects.
Capital projects?
Yes.
All right, let's see, I need to look two different places to answer that question. For the year,
What page are you on?
I'm on page 8. Now, we will have other budget expenditures coming out of that, but I always like to look at this, okay? For the year, we've received 2.9 million, and right now, we've only spent 403,000. There's two things that I can tell you that will be coming out of there. One will be a $1 million transfer to the debt service fund. We do that every year. And the other will be our second payment of $1 million on the Highland Heights Church property. So there's two. Then if we look back at the page that has the fund balances on it, in the very back, Fund 189, we had a fund balance of 1.4 million.
That's after all of these come out, right? Aaron?
Yes, sir. That's basically
That's
your
actually-
ending fund balance for the prior year, plus or minus the budget. The revenues and expenditures that we budgeted.
That's
we-
money that's unaccounted for.
Right. Correct. It's not allocated to go anywhere right now. Yes, sir.
So the total would be approximately 1.9.
Yeah. Again, going back to the budget document, but yeah, I would say 1.9 is probably pretty reasonable.
Okay, any other questions, or comments? Entertain a motion to approve the report.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, making sure. Okay, Mr. Hickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight I come to you without asking you to approve any pilots or anything. If you have in your package, we are working with Panatoni at the Speedway, who's developed their first 1 million square foot building out there. They have about 200 employees at that building. Again, that goes on the tax roll this year. No pilot for them. We're working, they have a master plan of building several buildings. They're building their second one now. We have 2 or 3 people that are interested in that building. To access that and to go through the overall development, they would like to ask the Department of Transportation to consider a grant under their State Industrial Access Grant Program. Either one of these 2 companies would qualify for that. That application requires a resolution by the county commission in support of the application. If approved, Panatoni would be the funding partner for that. There'd be no obligation to the county, and the Department of Transportation would administer the grant. If you're familiar with that, there's probably 3 entrances into the speedway now. if you go there, McQuarrie Road is the first, and then the second one as you move into the Speedway, and then the third road is called, oh, gosh, I forget what it's called.
Marty
Marty
Robbins.
Robbins Boulevard. So Darrell Walker leads into where the development is. This would be a grant to improve Marty Robbins Boulevard to an industrial access road. And Panatoni would improve it further than that. They'd make it more like a 3-lane route going into that. It would allow us to, work with different projects. And again, it requires a resolution of support, no obligation to the county in this regard.
I'll make that motion for that resolution.
Second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
May I ask GC, is there any particular form that resolution needs to take, or just say resolution of support and put some of this
I think I
information?
may have sent one. I'd be glad to send you another one, Mike. There's-
Did you send me one a
Yeah.
while back? I'll
I
find
did.
it. I'll
and
find it, don't worry
I'll
about it.
send you another one in the morning, but there's a format that you can just cut and paste if you want.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if I can, there's 2 companies that just rolled off the pilot program and they're on the tax roll. You may want to share that with them. They would-
That would be the 2 projects, Starbucks Distribution Center, and Mayor, you have to ask me on
Amazon.
Amazon across the street. So both of those were about a 5-year program. Again, they're on the tax roll with full tax. This 1 million square foot building at the Speedway is about $200,000 a year in taxes with no pilots. So we're trying to be as frugal with these things as we can, at the same time trying to bring in good companies. So those are 3 projects that went to the tax roll, which is good projects. And we appreciate that.
What would
And another-
Amazon bringing in? What would Amazon bring in?
The new one or the?
No.
It's a 1 million
Taxes.
square foot building, just on the real property, it's probably about 250,000 or so.
And just to add to this grant that's going in there, as everybody probably knows, the 1,500 acres there that Dover Down pays taxes on each year, including the Speedway, goes to pay off the bonds that put the infrastructure out there, which was a good deal that somebody made long before us. But also on that, every time Panatoni buys any of that acreage up, it automatically goes on the tax roll. So that's a win-win. And so this road just allows for more of that property to be bought with them and developed. And so
Allows us to
that's a
build,
good
for
thing.
them to build more buildings and get more money on the tax roll.
Yeah, it is possible.
Appreciate your support. Thank you, sir.
Can I ask one question? How long is the bonds for that infrastructure out there?
About 13 more years.
13 more.
Okay, Aaron, budget amendments for ambulance fund?
Yeah, basically the state passed a law increasing TennCare reimbursements about 18 months ago now. And so this is to reflect an increase in the amount that we're receiving from TennCare. It is required to go back into emergency equipment. So it is receiving some additional money from TennCare and putting it into the other equipment line.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
And this is some sale of surplus stuff from the ambulance fund, and they're requesting to put that back into the same fund and health equipment also.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any additional conversation needed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Another really surplus sale, some of it was out of 118, some of it was out of 101, so this is the stuff that was out of 101. Of course, that goes some to station equipment, 790.2, and then some of it they're wanting to go to their special operations team line.
Motion approved.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
They've had a rather large amount of vacancies recently. They've had to call a lot of people in for overtime. So they have, we were looking at it a few days ago, they've spent 81% of their overtime budget already. But because of those vacancies, they have money in their regular salary lines that they haven't been paying. So our recommendation was to move it from the other salaries and wages line into overtime, thereby not affecting fund balance or anything. And then next year, we'll move it back into the other salaries and wages line.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any additional comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
The next one's kind of big, but to break it down for you, during audit, we had things being put to various equipment lines as the auditors were auditing the capital outlay lines, the 700 lines. As they were doing that, they were seeing things like radio antennas and extension cords and stuff, and they said, you know, that's really not equipment. It's very convenient for WEMA because they assign certain people certain responsibility over certain line items in their budget. So we sat down with them and we worked out what are we going to do. Let's establish a threshold. We talked with Audit about it. We said, okay, anything less than $300, we're not going to put to a capital outlay line. We're going to put to some expenditure line. And then we had to figure out, okay, where's that line going to be? So for what was communication equipment, if it's less than $300, it's going to go to that equipment parts light. Data processing equipment will go to data processing supplies. Fire and ambulance support equipment will go to equipment parts heavy. And ISO improvement equipment will go to small tools if what they're buying is less than $300. And this is pretty much in accordance with what Audit asked us to do.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And last but not least, they have a reimbursement from Kenwood, which they're requesting to put into communication equipment.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any comments, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
They are asking to sell a 2008 International Ambulance on Gov Deals. That did pass EMA. So in order to surplus property, that has to come before you guys.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to sell an old ambulance. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And they have also asked you to sign on to a resolution. I know a couple of people are here, at least one I recall from the Emergency Management Committee, if they would like to speak on it. But they've asked us to sign on to a resolution that's in the packet, basically asking the state legislature to direct TennCare to reimburse ground ambulance providers at a rate not less than the current Medicare fee schedule. So I don't know a whole lot more about it than that.
Do you know what the fee schedule is?
I don't know what the fee schedule is. I don't have a Medicare fee schedule, but I do know that what TennCare pays is very, very low. You know, you're lucky to see on a TennCare run, you're lucky to see $100. It seems like at least from back years ago when I was more involved in the ambulance billing side of things.
They're saying that the governor is talking about supporting it, and what it's gonna do is gonna raise it up, so it guarantees us more money. It kinda gets them to match up with Medicare. Right now, one is it $10 less, or
I
what's?
think Brian said $50 would be the difference. He said it would get us about $50 more per call. So it's not
So
huge money, but
it just kinda evens it out, so
Yeah,
both are
it
paying
would
the
be.
same, instead of one paying a lot lower than the other.
Yeah.
And so it'll bring more money, instead of the state getting it all, it's gonna bring more money into Wilson County.
Right.
And all this is a resolution saying that we support this, and we hope, Governor, that you will support it, so we get more money in our county.
Well, I'm in the money, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to sign on to the resolution. Any additional comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Down to old business.
Okay, Mayor, you've got
New business.
Wilson County Jail, okay.
You ready for me to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I do not believe that you've received as a commission yet the Wilson County Jail Edition updates. You should get an email tomorrow to everybody. We try not to flood you with too much at one time, but we did go over that with Public Works, and we'll get that tomorrow. If you have any questions, feel free to holler at me on that, just to kind of give you an update. I had some people that called and was asking, hey, where are we on the project? I will say that after that, we also then presented to Public Works the possibility to purchase the Fred's building, which is behind the courthouse here. Give you a brief story on that, and they pass that along for your consideration tonight. When the building came open, there was some conversation about, hey, we ought to look at that. I had some calls from former mayors and other people, hey, anytime you got a building close to you, you ought to look at it. And so we started talking to them. At the time, we had negotiations. They started out at 1.2 million. I offered them 800,000, and we kind of went back and forth. And then finally, they came back to me and said, hey, look, we're going under bankruptcy, so the deal's off. And so we just dropped it, moved on. We had a local realtor here that I was working with at the time, or that was working with them to try to make that deal. So it went away for a while, and then here in the last couple of weeks, I had a call from a guy by the name of Jacob France, that's a realtor out of town, that's representing the people that actually bought all the Fred's buildings up, and said, hey, heard you had an interest a while back, or do you still have an interest? And I said, well, my job as the mayor is to, I can kind of help negotiate a price, but then it really all revolves back down to the committees and the commission on what's there. So I can put the paperwork together and carry it to them. And so we started going back and forth, the same thing, and the price we got to was $875,000. Then we said, okay, if that's the price, we asked, okay, the next question is, what do you do with that building? And the election commission had also reached out back during that time, saying they would love to be all under one roof. And I know some of those folks are here tonight. And so they'd like to put their training equipment in there, being able to train and also have their office under one roof. So they set up and went over there with the Director of Operations, Robert Baines, and said, okay, how does this place look? Can it fit our purposes? And so they outlined that, and they drawn that up, and I sent you a detailed list of what that cost would be for them to go in there. And then on the other side of it, we've had a need for quite some time to put court documents in storage. And, remember we sold the water building down there by Coffee Connection and took that money and bought the IT building. That's where a lot of our storage was. And so we have some storage at the IT building, some at the old health department, some in some other places. So this would put them all on the other side of the Fred's building, should you choose to do so. So we got that to be the price. That would be the use of it. They sent us a PSA. I'm not for sure what that is, but that's kind of a contractual agreement. I give that to our attorney, and he looked over it and said, hey, these adjustments need to be made. He sent that back, and so that contract is there if you choose to do this. Went to Public Works, talked to them and about it. The cost is $875. I think the renovations are $425. And talked to Mr. Maynard and said, how would how would we fund this? Could we fund this? Mr. Maynard said, I think a 6-year capital outlay note was what we talked about. There was some discussions at the Public Works meeting. Hey, why don't we just pay cash for it? I know that was our finance director's thoughts about doing the 6-year capital outlay note. I'll just say from my side, when we got here in 2010, you had about $10,000 in a fund balance on a several $1 million budget. And it was tough to get it where it's at right now. And where it's at right now helps you get the AA+ bond rating. It also, we're working for a AAA bond rating. But it also allows you to get cheaper interest rates and good bidders when you go out to bid. I will say the next thing, you made that happen because you passed a tax increase back when you built Watertown High School, and you passed a tax increase for 7 cents. 3 cents went to Watertown High School. 4 cents went to build the fund balance up. And it continued to gain in there, and that's why you've got it to right at $10 million now. But when you built North Green Hill School, you move the pennies out of there, so it won't be building no more. So where it's at now is where it's gonna be. You had about $200,000 last year that we had left over to go in there. So you've got a good cushion, that's where it's at. I didn't want you to be false pretenses of thinking, hey, we're gonna clip a $2 million lick every year. That's not happening, and that's where you're at. You say, what does other fund balances of counties have? Sumner County, for example, has 80 million in theirs right now. And so, you know, you can pay cash for this, you've got the money to do that. I would not suggest it, but you guys are in charge of that, and you heard what Mr. Maynard said about the funding part. I think that's it. I know there may be other questions from people, but that's kind of what they passed along to this body to see about moving forward, the funding, and I can answer any questions or try to.
Okay, what would the will of the committee be?
I'd like to defer this to give me further thoughts, so we can get about an out-of-county appraisal first. I just think we jumped a little too quick personally. I mean, we got a lot of money going out, got a lot of things going on. The building hadn't went anywhere in a year, and I just don't wanna jump too quick. That's just my feeling. So I'd like to make a motion to defer it for whatever, 30, 60, 90 days, personally. That's my thought.
Okay, well, can you nail down a 30, 60, or 90?
Whichever one the committee prefers. I'm good with either.
How long would an appraisal take?
I have, I know as far as residential, and that's what I deal with, 90% of what I do is residential real estate. And it takes me anywhere 3 weeks to get a residential real estate appraisal. So being a commercial appraisal, I know about 3, maybe 5 out of Nashville, one is with the Better Business Bureau. It'd probably take him about 60 days at the max to get a good bona fide out-of-county appraisal. I think that would be fair to the taxpayers, and I think that would be fair to us. I guess what I have a problem is when I pull the tax records and I noticed how much they gave for the building, then they're gonna turn around and sell it to us for $150,000, $200,000 less than what they gave for it. That kind of throws questions in my mind. I know it's probably overall all the Freds that they put together, the one in Hartsville and wherever else, might have been all under one umbrella, but I'd like to know exactly what bottom dollar amount I'm spending of taxpayer dollars. That's just the way I feel.
Just to answer your question, you'd be spending $875, because that's what the price is. You have a problem with it being under selling for less than what they paid for it.
Correct. And that's very unusual. I'm not gonna give $100,000 for a piece of property, then turn around and sell it to you for 75.
Well, I think you won't if you're the person there, but after going through bankruptcy, that may be what led to that.
I understand that.
Gotcha. On the appraisal part, and again, I can go either way, doesn't matter to me.
Well, I thought at one time that we had made a resolution for them that we had to have everything appraised anyway before we purchased it.
It's the Drennan rule.
Yeah, yeah.
At the Wayne Drennan. I didn't know the name of it, but I appreciate him now.
And I think you're exactly correct on that. The only difference would be is that, in my opinion, looking out for taxpayer dollars, I don't want to spend money on appraisal unless you're ready to buy it. If you're ready to buy it, you can pass it based on the fact that it meets appraisal. But
I wanna
just
know
just
what
to
I'm-
do it, just to talk about it,
No.
we
I
never
mean,
have
if
done
we're-
that since we've been
And
here.
I agree, it's only beneficial to the county, but then most anything within this square block is gonna be beneficial to the county. But secondly, I wanna make sure and know that money-wise, value-wise, is beneficial. It's only as good as we pay for it.
Well, and I think the resolution Mike is talking about too, means that anytime you guys decide you want to buy something, and this is a price you want to pay, and you agree that's what you want to do, then we do the appraisal. If the appraisal comes back less than what you've offered for it, it don't happen.
I understand
So-
that. I mean, come on, I've been in real estate 30 years, I know that. I mean, you're only gonna pay as much as it appraised for, but I wanna know what it appraised for before we buy it.
Might make a suggestion that if you want to move this along, that you approve your contract subject to funding and subject to receiving an appraisal from an out-of-county appraisal that is at least $875,000. Is that what you're saying? That'll satisfy the Drennan rule. That's a suggestion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, but no second at this point.
The motion is not exactly like Mike stated it. Right?
No. The motion's to defer. I'm saying if you want to move it along, You
Which-
could do it that way.
Which, there's no problem putting it off 30 days. I'm just saying that if you were wanting to do that, that his motion would be what we could do. You know, hey, we're okay with buying the building, we're okay with moving forward as long as it appraises from an out-of-county appraisal and however how long it takes to get in there. So I'm not fighting you.
And I'm not trying to be difficult.
I know.
You know, I called you a couple of days ago, but I haven't been
Yes.
feeling good enough to come talk to you about it. But
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure we're making the right decision. Because one minute we get up here and talk about we're making too fast of decisions on a project, then the next minute this is thrown at us in 2 days and we're spending $875,000. So which is it? Are we too fast or are we too slow? I wanna make sure I'm making the right decision.
Gotcha.
I'll second her motion.
Okay, exactly what is the motion?
The motion is to defer. The mayor said 30, if you can live with that, or, 60 days, it doesn't matter to me, but I just think we need to defer it, give us more time to talk about it, roll it over in our mind, and make sure we're making the right decision.
Okay,
Do we need to do it until the next budget meeting, because it may be 24 days, or it could be till
Yeah, because of
longer?
the short time.
Can we-
Are you
Could
deferring
we
it?
defer it till the appraisal comes in?
You could do that.
well,
That's what I was gonna ask, was if you're deferring it based on the appraisal, and she says it's gonna take 60 days to get a commercial company to come do the appraisal, then, no point in deferring 30 days.
We can do that. I mean, we can defer it 30, we can defer it until we can get the appraisal, and I'm assuming that I can get the money to go get an appraisal done.
And I'll send you the
And I'll
names of
need
5
this.
appraisals in the morning.
Yeah, I'll need some kind of idea, because I really don't know what a commercial appraisal,
It's gonna be a lot, I say anywhere between $3,500 and $5,000, pretty much.
And that's why I like to know for sure you want to do the project before we do that, so if it's possible.
Yeah, so I would say that probably what we want to do at this point is to do a budget amendment from the capital projects fund. Is everybody okay with that, to pay for the commercial
Say it
appraisal?
again there.
Do a budget amendment for the capital projects fund to pay for the appraisal?
I'll second
That's something this committee would have to approve.
does that need to be another motion?
It'll have to be another motion.
Okay, let's,
Look, you got the first, I got just have something. What if we send it to the county commission, let the county commission vote on if they're interested in the project? Because if we have enough for the project to go forward, then we can sit there and say, okay, we would like to do the project, let's do the appraisal and go from there. At least the company knows that we're interested in moving forward, and also gives a chance for all the commissioners to sit there and be able to vote is coming up.
Well, I've had a couple of commissioners contact me today talking about that they would prefer to defer it until they know what the appraisal is gonna be. They said they were gonna vote against it. I told them it didn't matter to me one way or another. I think it's a good project, but, they were telling me that they just thought that we were moving too fast in a 2-day period.
okay, based on your comments and your comments, I assume we're at the point right now, we have a motion on the floor to defer until until their appraisal returns. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
I have a quick question. Is the seller gonna wait on us, or they can sell to somebody else?
They can sell.
They can
We
sell.
don't have a contract.
It's been sitting there a year and a half.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, no, I'm
Just
just,
came into
possible.
bankruptcy court recently, though. We weren't able to do anything. We
yeah, my question is like, are they gonna
Since
wait on
last
us?
May.
Do we need it? If we need a building for the election commission, is it gonna go away from us if we wait?
Good.
So that's the only thing, I'm worried about, because from my business, just like your business, you might wait, you might lose, but if we lose, we lose. But that's why I feel like I'm out, but I feel like should be friend by the commission. I think it would be good to vote on it.
Then we might not wake up in the morning too.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna worry about that. Yeah.
So we're not worried about the
We won't
building.
be here to worry about the building.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we want to leave the motion and second the way it is?
Yes, I do.
What does the motion say, Mike?
To defer consideration of this until the appraisal is received.
I got a question.
Tommy, you wanna leave?
You got a question back there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
How many appraisals are y'all gonna take, is the board gonna take?
How many do we need?
The last
One.
appraisal, like on the Fred's building, they came
I was-
in with 3 or 4 comps, on one that we did before. I don't know if this one will or not. I don't-
Commissioner Stafford was saying that they should be able to submit 5 other.
Appraisers that they can choose from, not that they can have to have all of them,
I
that they
didn't know
can
how
choose
many-
from.
I didn't know how many.
I think it's more fair for them to have a number to choose from.
And from out of the county, correct?
I'm
Out of
sorry?
the county,
Yes, out of county, definitely out of county.
I agree.
Okay. So Tommy, you wanna leave your second the way it is?
Leave it where it is.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional conversation?
I don't know, I know I looked at it and I was real interested before, but I'm not 100% sure I'll vote for it on the floor, just because you got the extra 425. But that also gives me another, between now and the commission meeting, to get more information and try to decide, because like you, I've received a couple calls that people are against it. Again, when it's at your back door of the property and you can do something, put something you need in there, or you may get something in your backyard that you don't want. And because I know we're gonna have some openings at the Judicial Center when once we finish building that out over at the Holland Heights. There'll be more space there. But I still feel like, even though I don't know which way to go ahead and put it before the commission, vote on it, see if everybody's in favor of it. If they're in favor, then we can spend the money to get the appraisal, because if it fails on the floor, then we don't need an appraisal anyway, and we say to taxpayers, if you get 3 of them, and if they're $3,300 a piece, that's gonna be $10,000 we just spent.
I think the one would have the
One
3
would be
comps in it.
One sufficient, I just
And I
want
think
one
they'll do comps
sufficient.
in it with them.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sitting here debating whether I ought to say this or not, but I feel like if I don't say it, I've been around here a long time, and I remember one specific instance that this county had the building out here, the old Middle Tennessee Electric Building where y'all are, City of Lebanon. We had that purchased. We had the resolution, we brought it to the floor, and some county commissioners decided we were paying too much for it. So we did not approve that. And the City of Lebanon bought it, and see where it is now, right there next to the Ag Center. Would have been another entrance into the property for us. And we had that, even to the point that the resolution was in the packet, but we didn't go forward on it. Look what the City of Lebanon has done with that building. And it's right there next to county property. Now, I'll just say, I feel like I had to say that. I'm not trying to sway you, but just don't be too short-sighted.
I agree with you.
Wendell?
What have you got now?
Wendell?
Yes, ma'am.
Another thing to consider that hasn't been discussed is that all of the storage right now for elections is sitting in the school building at the moment. And the contract is up in 2021. And I think they paid $307,000 for the storage for the 5 years. So that'll be another expense that we'll be facing next year. So just factor that into your decision.
Is it like rental?
Is it-
Yes, sir.
This is rental.
I don't think anybody's against it. I think all we want to do is get an appraisal from out of the county before we proceed. I don't know that anyone's against getting the building if it actually works out.
If it stays, on the market.
That would be my concern.
Might be a good place for a halfway house over there.
There you have it. Easier for y'all to arrest them right down the street.
Would be good for Autoville.
He went there.
There's always
You know you
options.
give 875 for it.
I might do that. Yeah, I can sell it.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this? All minds clear? All in favor of delaying it for 60 days?
No,
Or
till-
until,
till you
excuse
get an
me,
appraisal.
until the appraisal
That's what
returns?
your motion.
All in favor of such, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm opposed. I think it's go for the commission, but.
So we got 3 ayes?
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind getting the appraisal done, I was just
Try and move along.
hated to spend the money unless I knew for sure y'all was ready, but everybody behind me says, hey, we're not against the project, we just want the appraisal, so if that's the case, and I'm not wasting $3,000 to $5,000, I'm okay. Because, I mean, I'm a taxpayer too, so I didn't want to spend $5,000, and you guys say, we don't want it, you know? So that's where I'm at.
And again, like you said, I don't think anybody's saying that we don't want it. I kind of agree with what he's saying. I don't think nobody's saying that we don't want it. I just think a lot of times, like we said, even on other projects, everybody's saying we run and jump too fast. You bring us a number, bam, we the county, we open checkbook. Here, you want it, have at it. You know, and
I don't wear my feelings on my shoulders every day, just every other day.
but if you're talking to me, it's every day.
I know. But I mean, I guess I really thought when I got them from 1.2 to 875, you guys would say, hey, man, great job.
Well, and to me, it makes me think, it's a great job, but to me, it makes me think nobody else is biting at the 1.2, so nobody was biting at all, so they felt like you were a cash cow.
But you
No,
just
I
got
think so.
into that 875 recently, because it just went into bankruptcy probably October.
Yeah, I got the call 3 weeks ago probably, and I do have no guarantee. I mean, Mike brought up a great point. I mean, the guy may call me tomorrow. I'm dealing with a realtor
Yep.
that's representing the company.
And
He
that's
may
what
call
he's
me
gonna
tomorrow
do.
and say, hey, what's your deal? And if I say we don't have anything for 30 days, he may say, see you. And then we may say, hey, our bunch is good for 875, and he may say, well, my guy's not. I mean, so all of these are just, I mean, I represent you
can
guys, and
also
he
go back
represents
to them
him.
and tell them, look, let me have first right of refusal. They can do that too. They can decide yea or nay if they want to do it or not.
You may
You know,
upset the
they
market,
may
too.
say that they want to give you time to do it or not. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you got, just like everything else, you got things we have to go through too. We just can't jump on everything the first thing come through. Like we've been told over and over and over again about several other projects. Well, at least I have.
Okay,
Especially
Mayor,
this
next
school
thing.
project.
Well, okay.
Going home.
Strike one.
Mayor, you got there.
I know. Good day.
Just got bought for that.
I'm gonna shave tomorrow. The next thing, and I believe Mr. Goodall is here, he's here. Miss Tammy came to me, I don't know, it's been a while ago, and said, hey, look, the office we got down there at Mount Juliet is busting at the seams, and really wish you guys would consider getting us a better place, or a bigger place. We've got a lot of, and I guess Miss Jennifer's here too. And she's spoken to some of my commissioners I know about the work they're doing. And they're doing a good job down there and handling a lot of business. And so we began to look to see, was there anything out there that would maybe take care of that. There was a complex that came open across from the Wilson Bank and Trust down there on South Mount Juliet Road maybe, or Mount Juliet Road. Middle Tennessee Electric's in one side and somebody else in the other. And so we started talking to them. They wanted about $12,000 a month rental. Right now, you guys pay $1 a year, I think, for what you got behind the city of Mount Juliet. And so anyway, we didn't feel like there's any sense in going any further there. So I reached out to a realtor down there and we talked, and he said, let me look. And he said, hey, I think the North Green Hill Women's Club, no, the Green Hill Women's Club, got too many Green Hill stuff. The Green Hill Women's Club is available. Let me get back with you. So he called me back and he said, hey, it's already sold. So that's done. I'll keep looking. Had another guy call me, I think he called Mr. Goodall first. He sent him to me. Hey, look, we got some land down here. We'll purchase that land for you. We'll build you what you want. We're a contractor. Got into that price. It was going to be a pretty good price, but it's a new building, of course. So then the realtor called me back and he said, hey, the guy that bought that really only wanted it because he wanted the access to the road beside it to get to the back of his property. And he would sell it to you if you would not close off the road. So I talked to Mr. Goodall and Tammy and them and said, really no need for us to close the road off. And so before we went any further, I said, okay, let's make sure the building is something that we could use. So I met with Robert down there, and Robert met with these folks and said, hey, can this building be serviceable? It's got an upstairs floor with a kitchen on it, a downstairs basement area with a back entrance to it. It has an area to make parking in the back. Of course, the parking's in the front's okay. The parent property beside it is a Mount Jewett Little League ball field. Nobody's there during the day, so you really could have overflow parking there, and they probably would have overflow parking when we're gone at the nighttime hours. So they were good with the building. Talked to Robert. Robert said, hey, here's what it's gonna cost you to renovate it and make it usable for them. So they were good. So we went back to him, and he said, here's what the deal would be. You pay $155,000 to me, and then you give the women's club $90,000 a year for 3 years. They're gonna take that money and give it to women's scholarships. Now, I assume I wrote a letter to all of you that I really thought it being $425. I'm thinking at that area in Mount Jewett, that's probably what the cost of it was. Only to find out once I started digging up all the paperwork and stuff, the guy actually paid $300,000 for it. So he's making $125,000. That's profit. I called the guy back and I said, the realtor, I said, gosh, that's a lot of profit. I guess it's not my business what profit he makes. And he said, well, probably ain't, Mayor, not your business. And he said, I said, but can you see if you can do any better for me on that? That's tough for me. And he called the guy back and I said, no, I can just rent it out like it is and make that kind of money. If you want it, I'm okay with that. If you don't want it, hey, that's good too. So I said, okay. So that's why I wrote you the letter, gave you everything I know, it's in there. I think $158,000 renovation is the cost. You got a detailed list of that in your packet as well. And so was asked at the Public Works meeting, hey, can you get me appraisal on it? So we asked them to do an appraisal. They paid for the appraisal. I sent that to all of you today. I have copies up here if you need it. The appraisal $544 is the cost. The $544 is what it appraised for. I think that's all the questions. There was a question, hey, look, can we just pay him the money and he pays the women's club? And he just wanted his initial down payment back plus profit. And then the agreement with them on the $90,000 per year, no interest, is how they want it, because that's how they needed to be able to distribute it over that 3-year period of time, because they're out of business now. And that would be in your contract on your purchase. So that's a story, and we'll see. They're here if you need to know about their being, what kind of facilities they're in down there. I'll answer any questions you got for me.
Before we go there, we need to have a motion to pay for,
Motion to pay for the independent out-of-county appraisal.
From the capital projects fund, well, let's just go ahead and estimate 8,000, anything less
Not
than
to
that.
exceed.
Yeah, not to exceed 8. Well, anything less than that, we will just,
Come back.
close the bill.
okay, that's your motion. There a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
What was that, Mayor?
Okay. Now, back to the county clerk's office.
Can I have a copy of the appraisal? I don't wanna mess up my paper at home.
I'm sorry. I got them here if anybody wants any. You got them in your inbox as well. I know you want one.
Okay, what is the
I got one.
wishes of the committee?
Pass it.
One question, Mayor, did we get a title search for Green Hills?
Mr. Tommy talks about a title search, and that will be done at the close, and me and him talked
Prior
about
to
that
the
last
close.
night. And,
Yeah.
Let me ask Mike this.
Yeah.
Mike, what I worry about is that land, like the clubhouses down at the Lake Home, that land was donated. And I've always been told all my life, if it ceased to exist to be something, it's supposed to revert back to those families that donated it 100 years ago. And that's a concern to me about that down there being what it was.
It depends on how the deed is worded,
Well-
Tommy, and we ran into this with the Highland Heights
That's
property.
exactly right.
And we fixed it.
And you know where I'm going with this, do we need to purchase title insurance for it?
Yeah, but let me tell you, title insurance will only go back 60 years.
Okay, well,
So, but yes, it needs to be, somebody independent needs to do a title search on it. And if you know when the property was was,
Well, I don't know that it was now,
but it needs to go back to that so that we can make sure of
but
that.
like I say, I've heard that all my life for those at home.
Yeah,
So,
and we have a lot of
thinking
that with these old school buildings, and
Yes.
most of them are about gone.
Mhm.
But the ones, you know, like Shop Springs and that type of thing, that's what you get into. A family would donate it, and then say if it ceased to be used for educational purposes, it reverts back to my family's heirs. Well, you can imagine 75 years later, how that tree's gone,
Mhm.
you know, and you've got a problem.
But whatever your opinion is about that, I'm happy with it, as long as I make that point, what I'm thinking.
I'll check it,
Uh,
I'll check.
So the deed, the new deed that showed where he paid 300,000
Yeah.
was included in your packet that we sent you.
Yeah.
Which could still be false. And I guess mine and Tommy's conversation last night was, okay, if the contract and the closing says, hey, we did a title search, the title's clean, do you need title insurance as well?
I would.
Yeah, keep in mind now, a title search or title insurance is not gonna go back to the beginning of time. It's gonna go back to a stated point, and they don't go back as far as you think. And then, so if that property's been in the Green Hills folks for 75 years before it's transferred 3 months ago, that title search they got may not gone back and answered Tommy's question. So that's a legitimate question.
And that's the reason you would want title insurance to cover you in case it.
If they'll go
something
back that
happens.
far.
It's
Right.
in your documents, it's 1968. And then-
Oh, it's when they bought it?
Yes, it goes further back to 1904, so it's in your paperwork.
Okay, well, I hadn't looked at the paperwork, but when you say 1968, that's when the Green Hills,
Evidently, that's when they got it from Mount Jude Little League, or
Okay.
whatever that is.
They purchased the property from Mount Juliet.
okay. Well, I think one of the things that's changed, Tommy, in the 40 years I've been practicing, everybody used to do a title search. Now, just about everybody does title insurance. So I would recommend you do title insurance.
Yeah, that's the way you feel about it, that's how I
Yeah.
feel about it.
Yeah, that's the way.
I know it's more money.
It is more money,
But that's the security.
but I mean, that's y'all's call, but.
Your opinion is what I value here. That's
Well,
what
I
we got you for.
I appreciate that. Hope you'll keep me a while. But that needs to be, in my opinion, you need to do that. You know, talk about protecting the taxpayers. That needs to be done.
All right, I'm done.
But that shouldn't slow down the process. Most lawyers can turn that out in half a day.
I know. I've got it.
We had the discussion.
Okay, Mayor, if I understand it correctly, if I'm reading this right, the current owner of the building's only gonna get $155,000.
He'll get a down payment he'll get a payment of 155,000. And then there are 3 payments that are listed on this deal here, November the 20th.
But those $90,000 payments will go toward
To the Green Hill Women's Club.
scholarships.
Yes, they will.
So really, the owner's only getting $155,000.
That's his profit.
So that's Mark Lineberry.
I guess I'm confused. Several have suggested I need to look at the paperwork.
No.
We're gonna make a $90,000 payment for, once a year for 3 years to somebody that's not selling us the property.
Wow.
Yeah, how's that work?
But that's a condition of the deal.
No, it's not a condition of the deal. That was a conversation I had with the realtor on how the payment could go. If you want to say, hey, let's give them all $425 up front and be done with it and let somebody else do it, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
You can do it any way you want to do it.
So
That's what they offered.
The purchase price then is the 155 plus the 270, and it's going to the seller, whoever that is, and then he's gonna give 90 to the,
Well, he said we could. In other words, but that, I think that's, I don't wanna say schematics here, but I'm saying, if we look at the deal, when you talk to the realtor and he says, and you say, we can't do that, we need to give you $425 up front, then okay, that's fine, if that's what they choose to do here.
But the $90,000 payments are interest-free, right?
They are, yeah, and that's why, because we were talking about how much money up front was needed, and that's what he said. That's the deal he had, I think, with them.
In other words, we're gonna
Yeah.
refund him what he's put in it and assume his position.
That's it? But if Mike and them look at the contract and say, hey, man, let's don't do this, I don't think that's a problem either.
It
I mean,
can be done that way, but my question is, why wouldn't we pay him and him pay them?
I think he had a deal with them to pay him 3 years at $90,000.
So we're assuming the no.
I think that's the deal. Yes,
I
sir.
think we better get title insurance.
Amen for
I
that.
agree.
I'm not saying it's a bad deal. Okay, it's unusual.
We've done a lot of discussion, but there's no motion on the floor at this point in time. Would anybody like to make one?
I'll make a motion, we purchase the property according to the terms the mayor's put out. And I assume I need to put in this motion that we're gonna purchase title insurance for it, Mike?
Please.
Okay, is there a second to this motion?
I'm just kind of confused why we're doing it with this one, or
And not
doing
the
one
other.
this way and one the other way. If we're worried about how much the property's gonna appraise for.
Well, they've already
I,
got an appraisal on
I
this.
I think this one is more safe to sit there and say, hey, will you hold off for us for a little bit versus the Freds.
Yep.
But
I can tell you how I
That just
feel
made-
about it, William, I don't know if it'll make any difference to you. There's a real need for that building down there at the time, we need the space. I'm not saying we don't want this building or need it, but we're not in, we don't have to have it tomorrow.
Mount Juliet kicking us out of that building.
No,
No.
Mr. Goodall says he needs to grow.
Oh, and I understand that. I just, and like I said, I'm just trying to figure out what the difference in the two. And like I said, I haven't made up my mind either way on either thing. But I kind of feel like we need to get the appraisal, which you want a out-of-county appraisal on this, or y'all gonna accept this one?
This
I
one
guess
makes
we
me
could-
nervous because it's still an in-county appraiser, but y'all do what you wanna do. I'm just on
And
here.
like I said, I'm just throwing it out there because we did it for the one place.
Well, you're right
And there's
about that.
there's not much money. It's half is what the other one was, but it's still taxpayers' money, and I'm just throwing it out there
Let me
before we.
reword my motion, can I, Will?
Yes, sir. Didn't get a second.
Let me put it out that we'll purchase the property at the terms the mayor laid out with title insurance, and we'll offer a contract to the realtor contingent on an out-of-county appraisal. I'm sure they'll take that one from there. We're just gonna have to pay for appraisal, which is hurting me bad.
Well, I don't think that,
Already paid for one.
Okay, is there a second to this motion?
I can second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now,
I had the same question that you were talking about the 90,000 paying over 3 years like that. I'm sitting here thinking, why are we paying that? Why don't we not, if we're gonna buy it, buy the building and he takes care of it? Bobby and I were just talking about, is he trying to get out of capital gains on doing this? What's his motive for this?
Be in the name of the person.
Oh, well, that's my point. I wasn't gonna try and say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
I think it goes back to what Mike said earlier, and that's just me not to drilling down and getting the details of it. I think he had a deal with them to pay him so much money down, and then 90,000 3 years in a row. And I think that's the way they wanted it, because they didn't want all the money at one time, because they were gonna give it to the women every year like that. But hey, don't let that hold you up. If you wanna pay them if you wanna do the deal, you wanna pay them $425, shoot, just pay them $425. I don't care. For me, being cheap, 90,000 for 3 years in a row with no interest, and not having to worry about coming out of a capital outlay note and paying interest for it, that's where I'm at, man. I mean, but if you want to pay them all at one time, shoot, go right at it. That's not a problem.
What's your opinion again officially?
But what you're talking about, it
It
can
don't
be
make any
done,
sense.
and I hadn't done real estate in quite a while, so the people are out there watching may say this guy's an idiot, and they may be right. But we used to, you could buy a house and say, I'm gonna give you $200,000 for your house, I'm gonna pay you $100,000, and I'm gonna assume the $100,000 note that you still got owing over here, and I'm gonna assume that and pay it off. That's what we're basically doing, is assuming his deal of 90,000. There's nothing wrong with that. So that can be done. It just sounds strange, and again, I go back to 30 years of experience, but we've never done anything like this in county government. That doesn't mean you can't.
And if it's easy to go the other route. That's not one deal whatsoever.
I have a slightly different concern. I think I understand, but most of us around this table at one point in our lives, and for a lot of us for the majority of our lives, were actually in the private sector, not the public sector. So obviously, I was a certified public accountant in the private sector, and I did work for largely people in Wilson County, although other counties. We have engineers in this county, we have architects in this county, we have appraisers in this county, and I'm just a little, why would we disqualify people who operate businesses in this county from doing appraisals?
In my opinion, to say that is not disqualifying them. I think you're getting a total unbiased opinion. That's my thing.
But I just don't
I'm not
think
saying
they
I'm
would-
disqualifying anybody. I'm a realtor in this county by all means.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be disqualified. When I deal with government, I do. But I still think, excuse me, I still
just
think
you
it's
need to
much
get somebody-
better. I still think it's much better of getting somebody on the outside the county because it's totally unbiased, my opinion. Do what you want to do, that's my opinion.
Chairman, what's your thoughts? Should we pass it on?
Did somebody, yes, ma'am.
I just want y'all to understand the need. You've got your people of the county standing outside in the rain. The building is, what?
900 square feet.
Maybe 900 square feet.
Yeah.
They're walking around with money through customers standing. Customers are going back to where money is. I mean, it's not, it's bad. It's bad. You know, people stand in line, they're like sardines crammed in there standing in line. You can't use a bathroom. The bathroom is from me to the wall. There's no lunchroom. I mean, the need is bad, and it's just getting worse every day. Everybody that comes in the county's gotta go to that office one time. If you move here, you got to go to that office, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, I would have to agree with it. I've seen cars parked in front of the
They hit the
ambulances.
building before. They
The emergency service.
It's ridiculous.
There's no parking.
Mr. Goodall?
We run about 70,000 people through that office a year.
Yeah. I've been there many times, it's always crowded, hard to get in.
Okay.
Y'all wanna put this through to the commission then on this one?
Well, and one more thing can I say? That building has been free for 20 years.
Yes.
So that saved the county a ton of money. So we feel like we are ready and deserve it now.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second.
You go.
Do we want to leave everything the way it is? You good with it? Everybody ready to vote?
Is that what you're good with, William?
I was saying send both of them to the county commission, let the commission vote to get it moving, but it's kinda, I guess some people like some projects better than others. That's,
Well, I don't know that.
no, and I'm not saying anything, yes, I'm just saying that,
Well, the difference between this one and the first one, we are,
We're busting at the seams and we need it.
yeah, but we are approving this, we're moving forward with this one if the appraisal comes back.
but.
Correct.
Who's this appraisal through?
On the contract, you may do that now.
Do what?
I can get the realtor on the phone about explaining that 3 years of 90,000, you may do that.
I'm good with the deal you made. It's just, and I need to say too, for the public here, I'm not arguing for title insurance. I'm not gonna write it, so I don't make any money off of it. I don't write it.
But I think it's a good idea if we're gonna purchase it to get title insurance.
And
Okay.
I'd rather that if whatever we're gonna pay, we just pay it straight out, let him deal with whatever he's got to deal with. I don't think that's ours.
Okay, the motion at this time is,
Motion is to purchase the property on the terms the mayor presented with purchase of title insurance and contingent on an out-of-county appraiser saying it's worth what we're paying for.
Y'all really think we need an Allen County on this one?
I don't think so, the appraisal we've got laying here.
or do you want to?
Since we already got it, we got an appraisal right here.
William wanted it, is why
No.
we reworded it.
No, I was just being a little smart aleck, saying that we did it on the other one and on this. But I've done the shop local. I think we should keep as much stuff locally as we can. If people in our county, we can't trust them, then that's shame on us.
I second on that.
Tommy, do you want to rescind your second?
As far as the appraisal, yes, I'm willing to accept the appraisal we have. I think.
Just push it forward to the county commission for a vote.
Yeah, I mean, it
Just
doesn't.
take the appraisal part off of it, Tommy, it was your motion. Just say to purchase according to the terms and by title insurance.
And accept the appraisal we have in hand.
But we need,
Okay.
and on all this too, we need to make a decision too on how it's gonna be before the commission meeting Monday night. Which I agree.
That's what I said, we'll get the payment thing done. I'll find out from Bill.
If we don't get it worked out, defer.
Annette, you okay with the motion?
At this point, whatever.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to purchase the property as presented with, and also requiring title insurance. Is that
Title
correct?
insurance and with the appraisal we have now.
Wait a minute, I'm not whatever. I'd rather pay straight out. I don't like all this owner financing and dab here and dab there. We're gonna cut a check, I think we need to just cut one flat check and be done with it. I don't like all that.
Okay, that's not the motion.
Okay, I wanna amend the motion if you'll accept it. I'd rather just make one flat out cash according with the title, insurance. But I don't know about that.
Do you accept that?
Annette, do you understand we're getting $270,000 interest free?
I understand all that, but I mean.
Just say
you're
no.
Just say no then if you don't agree, but all this, you pay a little here and I'm gonna pay there,
It's me or something.
I think we should put it through the way it is and on the floor, if we wanna sit there after we study it and think about it for the next 9 days. If on the floor, if we wanna sit there and do the 90,000 a year and save the taxpayer that amount of money, or if we wanna pay it all at once.
As our
Okay.
financial advisor, what do you suggest?
Well, I would caution you only about one thing, which is we talked earlier about there's 1.4 sitting in fund balance right now. We talked about maybe that could be construed as 1.9. I would remind you that we're about to do a bid opening on a jail, which hopefully everything that we need is covered in debt service there. But what makes these deals work, I like for there to be a balance in the capital projects fund. So what makes these things work for me is paying them out over time sometimes, because particularly after we raised the adequate facilities tax, obviously we saw a mad inflow of people, coming in at the lower rate. So what I expect to see, and what I'm seeing so far, is a slowdown in those payments. So how long is it going to take for those payments to sort of start back up on the uptick? I don't have the answer to that question. So for that reason, I sort of favor the time mechanism, which is one reason I favor a capital outlay note in the scenario of the first property. But again, these are your decisions, and I certainly see the point of paying him, let's just pay him outright, and I understand the point. But I do like it, I do like doing it over time a little bit better myself, but again, you can do it
Okay.
either way.
What's on the floor at this point in time is to do exactly the way the mayor presented it, with the exception of title insurance. All in favor, say aye.
Wait a minute now, she made a motion to amend.
Oh, go ahead.
But they-
Take-
he
I-
didn't-
I
he taking that
withdraw.
back?
I withdraw.
It
All right.
it failed by the lack of a second.
Anyway.
Okay. All right. Now you're ready.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous.
That was fun.
Any other business? Anybody from, start to say, I won't call it that. Anybody from the peanut gallery have anything they want to say?
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Now, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.